Hi, Andrew. Can you say us?
Yes, I can. Hello, everyone. Look at this.
People
are there.
Andrew. Yeah, we got a big.
You're unmasked.
Full room.
There's no social distancing. Oh, sorry.
Well,
Taiwan.
Yeah.
You all can sit next to each other. No fear, no problem. That's beautiful.
I got to do some introduction for you before your speech here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Jay Liang. I am the ex-vice chairman and law supervisor for Taiwan Future Society. Tonight, I'm very honored to introduce you our keynote speaker, Mr. Andrew Yang, an American entrepreneur, philanthropist, and a former presidential candidate. The son of immigrants from Taiwan, Andrew was raised in New York. He attended Brown University and then Columbia Law School. Dissatisfied with his work as an attorney, I know many of you here on this panel also were trained as a lawyer. Andrew spent the next 10 years with startups and later became the CEO of Manhattan Prep, a test preparation company founded in year 2000 during dot-com bubble. In 2011, Andrew founded Venture for America, VFA, focused on creating jobs in cities struggling to recover from the Great Recession. The Obama administration selected him as the champion of change in 2011 and then as a presidential global ambassador for entrepreneurship in 2015. Late 2017, Andrew left the VFA and filed with the Federal Election Commission to run for president of the United States as a candidate in the Democratic presidential primaries. In the following year, he authored his first book, The War on Normal People. This book, everyone got to buy one here, and which outlines several of his campaign's central ideas. His signature policy was a freedom dividend, a universal basic income, UBI. Everybody know of that. $1,000 a month to every American adult as a response to job displacement by automation. Andrew received significant popularity online, with New York Times calling him the internet's favorite candidate. News outlets described him as the most surprising candidate of the 2020 election cycle. Going from a relative unknown to a major competitor in the race, Andrew qualified for and also participated in 7 of the first 8 Democratic debates. And he has been credited with elevating discussions on UBI, automation, and autism to the national level, as well as for engaging Asian Americans in the presidential politics. Andrew joined the CNN as a political commentator shortly after he suspended his campaign in February 2020, and then launched the creation of the nonprofit organization Humanity Forward, dedicated to promoting the ideas from his campaign. Andrew spoke at the 2020 Democratic National Convention in August, together with many other prominent Democratic Party leaders. And then he joined Joe Biden's 2020 presidential campaign as Biden's small business advisor last month. Now he's working very hard to support Biden's campaign in the swing states. My son, Jonah, and I have been proud fans and members of Yangon ever since Andrew publicly announced his presidential candidacy. In 2018, United Chinese American, UCA, a nonprofit organization promoting Chinese Americans' civil engagement, invited Andrew to speak at its biannual conference in Washington, D.C. As one of the UCA's founding members, I took Jonah, 7 years old at the time, for a 3-day trip from Taipei to D.C. to salute Andrew for his courage and his leadership. Early 2019, I also did a same-day round trip from Taipei to New York to co-host one of the most successful fundraising events then for Andrew's presidential campaign. In January this year, my son Jonah's main purpose for our one-week US trip was to cheerlead Andrew's keynote speech in Asia Pacific Islander Leadership Summit in Silicon Valley. Along the journey, both John and I witnessed the great progress Andrew has made for UBI, for Asian Americans' civil engagement, for a better future of the United States and humanity as a whole. And now I'm very excited to invite Andrew to make his first speech to Taiwanese audience in our sweet hometown, Taipei. Please join me to welcome our hero and our idol, Mr. Andrew Yang.
Oh, thank you, Jay. What a warm and beautiful introduction. I remember seeing you at those early events. I don't know if Jonah's there right now. It might be, I don't know if this event has kids. I just want to thank you, Jay, for your early support. It means so much to me. I also want to thank Seaman Chan, Michael Wu, and Charles Wu for your support of me, Humanity Forward, and the campaign. It's great to be addressing you all. I feel like if I'd known the scope and magnitude of this event, I would have tried to get my dad there. My dad lives in Yangmei, pretty close to Taipei. My mom is there too right now. So I have very deep roots. I used to go to Taiwan every single year. I'll tell you all a story that I'm not sure I've ever told anyone, but it was during one of my visits home to Taiwan that I realized I was going to propose to my now wife, Evelyn, because we went back to visit my parents in Taiwan and we had such a great time. And I looked at Evelyn, I was like, I really should propose. So I made that connection in Taiwan. Have so many incredible associations and beautiful family memories of visiting Taiwan every year until, frankly, the last several years when I declared for president. I knew I was going to have time to visit Taiwan for a while. So in December 2017, I went back and visited my grandmother who passed last year. And my son, Christopher, got to meet his great-grandma before she passed away. And want to get back as soon as I can, in part because my parents are there. And my parents are there in large part because it was better to be there than the United States over the last period of time. You all are, I'm sure, well aware of how the coronavirus has been running rampant here in the United States. And here in the United States, we're well aware of the fact that Taiwan, I got it under control very quickly, and you're all able to convene in this kind of environment, mask-free, concern-free. It has not been that way in the U.S. since March, and now we're teetering into November, so it's 8 months and counting. But I've never had a thought of going anywhere over these 8 months, in part because I thought I could help. I don't know if the light is better or worse. I guess I'll make myself a little darker and more mysterious. Because I thought I could help Joe win. So I am campaigning for Joe. They actually even have me going in person to Philadelphia in a very judicious way. Don't worry. It's like, the rallies have been very muted, shall we say. Not like the events that Jay might have seen during the campaign's heyday. So I knew I had to do everything I could to help Joe and Kamala win because Trump's got to go. And I know this event is in part about the future and how to make it better. It's hard to see a brighter future in the United States if Donald Trump remains president for another 4 years. It's why I decided to run back in 2017. I thought I could help defeat him. And I thought I could help defeat him as the nominee potentially, but I also thought that if I wasn't the nominee, then I could still lend a hand. And I'm doing everything I can to activate Asian Americans in particular. I have many supporters who are not Asian American, but Asian Americans could be the swing vote in swing states around the country. Asian Americans are 5.8% of the U.S. population. And they don't vote at the same levels as any other community. Asian Americans are the lowest participating community politically. And if that doesn't change, then it's going to be very hard for politicians to focus on Asian Americans and our community's perspectives and concerns. So now I'm trying to change that. I'm trying to help Joe and Kamala win. If Asian Americans come out in force in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Florida, and other states, they can be the difference makers. When I was growing up, or when I was a young adult, Asian Americans were kind of split politically between Democrats and Republicans, about 50-50. It's like 55-45 Democrat, where about half of Asian Americans voted for Republicans because they voted on one issue, taxes. They just wanted low taxes. As long as the tax is low, they were like, we can figure the rest out. But now Asian Americans have gone 75-25 for Democrats, and that was last cycle in 2016. This cycle, I think it's going to be even more pronounced because Donald Trump has vilified and demonized Asian Americans through characterizing the coronavirus as the China virus and Kung flu. So I think you're going to see something like 85-15 Asian Americans this time. And if more Asian Americans come out to vote, then it could be the difference maker. So that's what I'm focused on. I'm focused on trying to get people economic relief. Thanks to some of the people in the room tonight, we've donated over $8 million to struggling American families to try to help them through this pandemic. I've been endorsing down ballot candidates in races around the country. So if you all are helping with that, thank you, because I really appreciate it. Being able to help these down ballot candidates gives me a lot of joy. But it also gives me a lot of joy because of the progression that Jay described, where when I was running, no one was looking for my endorsement and no one was endorsing me. And now, fast forward a number of months later, you have major senatorial and congressional candidates who are thrilled to have my endorsement, in part because my endorsement brings with it some resources. So if you all enjoy this sort of thing, if I endorse a candidate and you donate to that candidate, I'll be doubly grateful, because then it will increase the weight of our endorsement and make it so that both Andrew Yang and Asian Americans can play a bigger role in national politics. I don't know how involved you are politically in Taiwan, or if it's the same, but in America, politicians pay attention to money first and foremost. So if your endorsement brings money, they're like, ooh, this thing's real. And then they pay attention to volunteerism and energy and votes too. They do. Just the money is easy to count. So if our endorsement ends up bringing with it these kinds of resources, it would be enormously influential for us moving forward. So I've been as busy as ever since suspending my campaign. I guess officially I could still run. But it's been a very tumultuous 8 months here in the United States. My family is getting through it in a way that's better than most anyone has a right to expect, in the sense that they're safe and secure and healthy and don't really feel like they need to be put in a position that's going to end up increasing a whole lot of risk. But it's a very difficult time in the United States, where you haven't seen, in my case, my parents in months and months, which my kids haven't seen my grandparents. You haven't seen most of your friends in months and months, because it's actually even awkward to say to a friend, hey, you want to hang out? Like, no one's really hanging out like that. You know what I mean? And it's going to be like this in the United States for months to come, I believe. I don't think this is changing anytime soon. But I believe Joe and Kamala are going to win in a very big way on Tuesday. And I have been in very informal talks with the Biden team about taking on a role in the administration. And very apropos to the topic of today's gathering, I may be in a technology-facing role and an innovation-facing role in the Biden administration, because they don't have a real clear focus on policy on that side. And that's been one of the problems in America over the last number of years, that our government has been decades behind the curve on technology issues. So I may be able to help the U.S. government speed up in that regard. And that's something I think I'd be thrilled to take on. And hopefully you all would enjoy seeing me in that kind of role if it comes to pass. I mean, again, everything is very informal, and we're all just focused on helping Joe win right now. but I believe there is a chance I end up being offered a place in their administration. And if I was offered a place of substance, I would accept, because we have to start digging America out of this hole we're in. We have to be more like you all. We have to try and get to a point where people can see their family members and convene, maybe even go to a sporting event. That's one of the things that, well, there's so many things we envy about you all right now, where even when I talk to Evelyn about this event or another event in Taiwan that people are asking me to come back for, she's chomping at the bit. She's like, well, I hear that you can actually go out to a restaurant there and see people and everything fine. And then I cautioned her. I was like, I think if we go, we're going to have to quarantine for a while because that's how they got so open and safe in Taiwan. They're actually very fastidious and careful about that in a way the United States has found very difficult to match. But as you can tell, I have very, very deep relationships and affection and roots with the people of Taiwan. I appreciate your support a great deal. One of the things that gave me joy during the campaign was this story I heard where there was a viewing party of one of the U.S. primary debates that I was in Taipei. So that gave me joy, just the fact that some of you would convene to watch the debates, which, it was probably at a very inconvenient time for you all. And then my father showed up unannounced to one of these watch parties, and then just said to people there, it's like, hey, I'm his father. And then everyone was so happy to see him. And I heard that story while I was still running, and it gave me so much comfort and joy that my father had the company of people like you all supporting my campaign from Taiwan. The feeling is mutual. I have a lot of love and affection for the people of Taiwan, the culture, the warmth. It feels like home. And I hope that my campaign has made America feel a little bit more like home for you all. So thank you for having me today, and would be thrilled to take some questions from you all. Thank you in particular for those of you who've supported my campaign, my organization's work, and the work we continue to do. Thank you.
Hello, Andrew. Can you hear from the stage? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great.
We have a pretty good AV setup. It's good work. This is like one of my earlier versions of this kind of interaction. So it's working well.
Hello. Yeah, here we go. Yeah. So we are thrilled to hear that you will be considered for in a new cabinet, and particularly in the innovation-facing role. I myself was a legislator, a member of the Congress for the last 4 years, also focusing on technology policy, AI, autonomous vehicles, blockchain, and et cetera. So my question to you would be, what would be some of the policies that you would be thinking about implementing in terms of bridging the gap of the technology biases or some of the technology disruption that's been created because of the underprivileged that's not on the receiving end of the technology development? What would be your ideas in fixing this?
As you all know, I ran on universal basic income, which would take some of the gains from AI and autonomous vehicles and put it directly in the hands of American citizens. Now, that's probably going to be well beyond the scope of whatever executive role that I might have. If you make that happen from a cabinet post, that would be a very powerful cabinet post. So my goals would be to bulk up the U.S.'s awareness of and measurements of some of those displacement effects on various workers. That could be through either the Department of Commerce or the Department of Labor, depending. I think that having a national AI policy would be enormously helpful for both the innovators and for the public. It's been absent so far. There have been a couple of kind of gestures towards AI And when I talk to the actual innovators in Silicon Valley, they are very open to some kind of collaboration with the government, both to see to it that they don't do something unfortunate or regrettable where AI is concerned, and to some extent because they want access to public help and resources for computing infrastructure. So those are some of the big things in AI and displacement, which is obviously very near and dear to my heart because it was the foundation of my campaign. One thing I'm very intent on trying to address is the effect of social media on democracy, on the mental health of younger Americans in particular, on the fact that it's impossible to get Americans to agree on anything because you can just log on and get your own version of news and reality. And those things are going to make it harder and harder for Americans to come together and agree on real changes. It's kind of ironic that social media may impede any meaningful changes because you can't get everyone on the same page. So that's something that the United States is looking at very closely right now. Actually, they're not looking at it. They're not looking at this particular issue as closely as they should. They've been looking at antitrust issues and what they consider content moderation choices, which is different from what I just described. What I'm describing is information bubbles and engagement to the point of negative mental health effects for teenage girls in particular. Haven't heard that really brought up in these hearings yet, but those are some of the things I would want to try and address if I had the opportunity to do so with Joe and Kamala.
Panelists, any question to Andrew? Okay, Leo, you go.
Yeah, my name is Leo Seawald. I'm the president of the American Chamber of Commerce here, and we're really interested in seeing Taiwan enter into a bilateral free trade agreement with the U.S. And, you know, we've talked to a lot of people in the States and here, and our impression is that the support for that is bipartisan. But I'd love to hear your version of that and what you think, working so closely with the Biden campaign. Is that something that will be a priority for the Democratic Party if they elected?
I confess to having not had conversations with Joe about this particular topic. I know that this has been something that you and others have been pushing for a while, I'd imagine, and it's hopefully something that the new administration, as you can tell, I'm already counting our chickens. Like, I think we're going to win. So if we don't win, then you can say, like, wow, Andrew got that very wrong. But the math says we're going to win, and my experiences on the trails, we're going to win. So I think we're going to win. I believe that a new administration will be looking at that kind of thing in large part because there's like going to be a desire to renew various relationships and invigorate some international relationships that have frayed over the last number of years. That's one thing I will say is that Joe is very, very intent on re-engaging with the rest of the world. He has said that to me. He has despaired to me about America's receding place in the world, and I know he'd like to change that.
John Lin, how are you? I'm just curious, would you still consider running for the mayor of New York? I mean, as a Columbia Law School alumni who used to work in New York, I got to be honest with you. I care about the city of New York and the rest of America. And I would love to see an Asian American who can run the capital city of the world. So, because I was based upon some of the media report that you're interested in also running for the mayor of New York. I was just wondering if that's still going to be your plan or one of your plans.
Well, thank you for the expression of support. I've got a number of people asking me about the mayoral run in New York, in part because it's kind of a large and fragmented field, and I have a lot of supporters in New York City. I ran on a set of issues that are national, in some cases even global in scope. I think that one of the best things that could happen for New York right now is Joe and Kamala winning, because one of the major ingredients of any New York recovery is going to be federal aid. I mean, that's the reality. You have a multi-billion-dollar hole in the New York City budget that is growing, And so you're going to need federal aid and support at a very high level. So job one is get Joe and Kamala into the White House. And then my focus will be on seeing how I can best lend a hand. My first move is to see if I can lend a hand on some of the issues I ran on at a national level. And those considerations, frankly, would come from me first before looking at the mayoral race. The mayoral race is next year, 2021. It's a strange cycle. But right now I'm just focused on some of the biggest national issues and concerns, because I don't think that New York City can recover independently if it doesn't have support from the federal government. But thank you.
Steve?
Andrew, this is Steve Chen from YouTube.
Sure, Steve, how are you doing? I regret to inform you that my older son is addicted to your creation.
No real questions. I think this is just a feedback comment coming from an Asian American. I loved you as an Asian American, watching you run your race. As the YouTube founder, all my recommended videos were your videos. I was only watching your videos on YouTube. I was playing around with the browse to be able to filter by most recently added, and I noticed a lot of the bugs that were there that I noticed for the first time when I was using you as the subject of my videos. I just moved here to Taiwan, but one of the best moments with my two sons back in the US was watching an Asian American on TV, and the kids loved watching you, and I thought that was one of the proudest moments for me as well as for the kids to be able to see that. So thank you.
Thank you, Steve. It's great to hear from you. I hope you're enjoying yourself over there. Again, there's a lot of envy. And it gives me so much joy and pride that you and your family enjoyed watching me. I will confess that one of the reasons I ran for president was I thought having an Asian American on the presidential debate stages would be enormously positive for our community, in part because I remember growing up myself, like your children, an American, and looking around for people who looked like me, who were doing things that maybe they weren't expected to. And knowing that happened makes me so happy. It didn't really happen with my kids. My kids didn't care what Daddy was doing, but at least it happened with your kids and Jay's kids and other people's kids. And I did see that reaction on the trail, people bring their kids to meet me from the Asian American community, and that made me happy every single time. So thank you, Steve. I hope you're doing great over there.
Hi, Andrew, it's good to see you on the screen. Last time I saw you was in Hong Kong over lunch, and we were rooting for you. We all got your book, and we have a book club. So anyway, it's good to see you. And I'm here to say at University of Virginia, too, there was a fan Yangon group, and when the group was meeting, they would miss my class. So it was very important for, and these are not, we don't have many Asian Americans. So this is a broad-based group. So you have a lot of supporters among young people. I have a proxy question for you that I think it's very important, which is we are in Taiwan. And as you probably saw in the latest poll, that Taiwan is the only country in Asia with more supporters for Trump than for Biden. And Hong Kong comes very close, where we last met and where I just came from as well. So the question for you is, how does Biden think about its China policy, knowing many of his supporters, his advisors on the U.S.-China relations side? A lot of people in Taiwan are very concerned that he will be soft and that he doesn't understand the threat, even though Trump has many other issues. But his foreign policy, obviously, is very aligned with democratic countries that are under the threat of China today, which is increasingly so as it gets more assertive. If you could address that to the audience here, we'd really appreciate it.
Thanks for the question, and thank you for the support. I remember that event in Hong Kong, and that was early in the campaign as well. So I hope you enjoyed seeing the campaign grow, and thanks for accommodating your students who were supporting me. it makes sense to me that there are many folks in Taiwan and Hong Kong that were sympathetic to some of Trump's policy positions. He did some unprecedented things where Taiwan's concerned, I know, and that there's been a dynamic where people don't think that the Democrats have the same stance. Again, I have not had conversations with Joe and the team about this, but I think that during the last 4 years, there's been an evolution in the way that many people view both China and the U.S.-China relationship. And I'm not sure if it would be natural for this new administration to somehow revert to a previous administration's approach to China and the relationship, given the changes of the last 4 years. I think that there will be something of like a desire for a reset because the U.S.-China relationship has become very, very fraught on some dimensions. But I would ask the people who are focused on this set of issues to wait and see what Joe's approach looks like, where China is concerned, where Taiwan and Hong Kong are concerned, because I think they may see that something has shifted from the last Democratic administration.
Hi, my name is Charles Wu, and I'm extremely honored to have a chance to ask the famous Andrew a question. So my question is that given that there are planes flying through Taiwan every day, it seems like every day right now from China, do you think a Biden win will help reduce some of the tensions between U.S., China, and Taiwan? Thank you.
I hope so. I believe so. I think that a Biden-led America is going to be very engaged in international issues in a different way than the Trump administration. And hopefully that different way will lead to a reduction, not an increase in tensions with U.S., Taiwan, China, and that set of concerns that have been, unfortunately, I think, trending in not a positive direction. One thing I can say in my conversations with Joe, again, is that he is very, very distraught about what he sees as America's receding place in the world. And he's going to want to invest significant energies in changing the dynamics. So hopefully that ends up being positive for the levels of tension in the Strait. It may not be him personally for a while. I think that he's going to be, he's going to have his hands full with a domestic rebuild, but I'm very confident that he's going to invest an enormous amount of autonomy and agency in his new Secretary of State, and that Secretary of State is going to be all over the world for months, starting from day one, because I know they want to try and rebuild many relationships, and hopefully that ends up leading the tensions down, not up, in the Taiwan region.